I really like that Delaware State shirt, dude. It's slimming on you. So you know how they say "suns out, guns out," or "suns in, guns in" sleeves season. Hello, 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 and welcome to Updog Sports Talk. My name is Matt Miller. Joining me today is Justin McGovern.
What's up, everybody?
I really like that Delaware State shirt, dude. It's slimming on you.
That wasn't the compliment I was gonna expect, but yeah, I had to rock the Delaware State shirt today.
Yeah.
Um,
You know what I've been
I,
liking lately? Like I've always liked retro logos, but
mhm.
like the retro look in general. Like
Yeah,
maybe it's because I'm playing as Georgia Southern on College Football 25 and they just have the Alabama uniforms but navy blue. Um Maybe that could play into it, but like just the school name and the football brings it back, man.
yeah,
That's a
and you know
classic
what?
look right there.
This was a thrift store find.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I saw this and I was like, oh yes, absolutely have to.
100%. And like
Yep.
if it's cool inside the house, you could still wear it over the summer.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. I
but
mean,
wait
just
till
like
winter.
today, right now, I mean, we're in that surprising, kind of fall teaser weather right now in Ohio. So,
Yeah, so
it
like you
works
know
out
how
perfect.
summer typically is thought of being a sunny season.
Yes.
So you know how they say "suns out, guns out."
Yep.
So right now we're in "suns out, guns out," but when it goes to uh guns or "suns in, guns in" sleeves season.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I won't
And
attempt that again.
early this week, we've temporarily gone into that. Had the rain, the sleeve. Rain the guns in. Put on the sleeves, and um, yeah, yeah. It's been
Yeah.
nice though. It kind of it's nice to feel like fall. If
You
you have
have
not
not
joined us
said anything
before,
about my hat yet.
yes, yes, we need to go to the hat.
New
Look at that
hat.
Bucky's hat. Very
Um,
cool.
Hit up Bucky's. Since they have food, we will give them a unpaid shout out.
Hmm.
Um,
That
Beef
brisket
jerky
sandwich,
brisket sandwich,
amazing.
dude, so good. You know, my daughter didn't like her fried chicken sandwich.
Really.
I don't. It was probably just she was done being in a car and really didn't want to eat. She just wanted to do anything else, except for eat that sandwich apparently. But the fried chicken sandwich was really good.
Interesting, yeah, because I've gone brisket every single time because I just, I can't not do it because it's
Yeah.
just so good. So glad to hear they have other good stuff too.
But it was an absolute zoo. If you can go on a
Oh,
Wednesday, it's way better than a Sunday. Oh, and just
oh yeah, you don't. That's the thing. If you go on the weekend, you're in for it being crazy in there,
well, that's
especially like
Bucky's may not be the full reason why you joined us, but we're glad you're
yes,
here.
yeah.
Justin, what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so you have joined us because we talk about college football differently around here. We're not like the big networks where we act like only two conferences exist. No, we're here to talk about all the conferences. And today is part 2 of our by conference predictions. We will be covering Conference USA. We'll be covering Maction. We'll be covering the Mountain West after dark craziness, the SEC, and the Sun Belt, otherwise known as the Fun Belt. So, kicking us off here, we are going to talk about Conference USA. So, let's dive into our sleeper picks, Matt. Why do
I'm
you
gonna.
have New Mexico State up there?
They may have lost most of their team to um Western Tennessee, but I still think they can like, and they lost their coach to Vanderbilt as well. I think just a new face was needed. Uh, in order, I mean, like obviously the coach had the program going, but I think making the full change, like him walking away, getting new players in. I think that changes the program a little bit, and I think they're just going to come out and surprise a lot of people because obviously there's tendencies, but I don't think that they're going to be on anybody's radar.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. I mean, if you haven't paid attention to us before, we may be the biggest New Mexico State homers in Ohio,
Yeah,
but I'm
buddy.
glad to hear that isn't the whole reason behind your pick. I have to try to shy away from that a little bit. I went a different route here of my sleeper, and that is the Sam Houston Bearcats. This team, we started to kind of get on their bandwagon a little bit because they would just come so heartbreakingly close to winning games every single week, but losing them at the last moment. I mean, they did this all the way until November. They were the last team to get a win, but they broke the seal, finally got a win, and finished the season 3-1 in the last month. This team is, they figured it out now, and with a lot of people back, they're ready. They're ready for the FBS level now, and they're ready to take the next step and get towards I mean, maybe not contending for the conference title, but I think they're going to at least make a bowl game and maybe make their way to the top half of those conference standings.
Yeah, last year they did pretty bad, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, basically, they kept losing close game after close game. Like, they would have a lead late in the game and would find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, kind of thing. So, I mean, it was a struggle for them, but then they finished the season strong in the
Yeah.
last 3 games.
I
Or
like
last
Sam
4.
Houston. They annoy me a little bit in the video game because I have to face them so much. But I don't mind them.
Yeah. If the video game's any indication, I hope I don't butcher his last name. Gentry is going to be a problem for everyone because he sure was a problem for us. I mean, that guy ran for 200 yards in 1 quarter on us.
Yeah. So Justin sucks at the game. Just FYI, he's lost us 2 games so far.
I lost those 2 games. You gave me a massive halftime deficit, Matt.
That guy just ran all over us.
He really did. Actually, we did not lose that game, too.
I
I
know
actually
we
led
won
us
that game.
back and won that game.
Moving on, Justin, who's your bust of Conference USA?
Yeah, so I mean, it was very hard to pick a bust because I feel like the top 3 teams are kind of heads and heels above. Is that the saying? Heads and heels? I don't think that's right.
No.
They're above the rest of
Leagues.
the field right now.
They're leagues above.
Leagues above the rest. So it's really hard to pick a bust. But I looked at Western Kentucky and I realized there's one problem. And that is that they opened the season with Alabama. Now, Nick Saban's not there anymore, but I consider this the Alabama curse, or maybe it's just because you open the season with such a rough loss that things fall apart. But basically, every team that has played Alabama in the opener since, I think it's 2016 has failed to make a bowl game. I don't think it's going to get that bad for Western Kentucky, but it might be a reason why the season's below expectation for them. I foresee also potentially losing to Boston College and Toledo out of conference, along with the Liberty Jacksonville State games, and maybe even one more in the conference play. So 6-6, I think, is where that would put them, and that is below expectation for this program.
Yeah, I think Liberty is gonna bust. I mean,
whoa,
what's his name? What's his name at quarterback?
Salter.
Yeah,
Caden Salter.
yeah. So I think he's gonna do okay, but I think Liberty's just gonna fan the flames, so to speak, and I think they're gonna have a down year and kind of waste some talent.
Wow, that is a bold one. That is a bold one right there, Matt.
Yeah, shooting high, aiming high. I'm gonna get ripped to shreds on that.
All right, so if you see Liberty as a bust, you must have a surprise pick for your conference championship game.
Yeah, I got Jacksonville State over Western Kentucky.
All right, yeah, going with the Gamecocks. Rich Rodriguez,
Yes,
leading them to power.
Rich Rod is building another West Virginia, but even further south.
I like what he's building out there, and I too am really high on Jacksonville State this year, but I just cannot pick against Liberty. I mean, they rolled through this conference last year. I suspect they'll be the same this year. They also get their two biggest contenders, West Kentucky and Jacksonville State at home, which is going to be key. They still have a lot of talent up there. Salter, Cooley, running the ball really well. Defense is a little bit of a question mark. If there's a weakness to pick at, it's going to be that one. But I still see Liberty winning this conference, going undefeated in conference play. Now we'll have to see about non-conference play because they have a tough challenge against Appalachian State. So that brings me to another topic here, and that is their schedule. Outside the Appalachian State game, most people would qualify their schedule as weak. Matt, how do you think this impacts their playoff hopes?
I mean, you want strength of schedule, but they're G5, so they're already barely considered for a spot. So they have to fight their way up, and playing weak competition could leave them out if they don't win Conference USA.
Yeah, I think it puts them in a position where, and to be fair, this is not their fault. I'm not going to call out which specific team it was because, basically every power conference program that was on their schedule, as soon as they joined the conference, they were pretty much like, yeah, so you're in a conference now and you don't need this game anymore. So goodbye. We're out of this game. So part of the problem was that, several of the power conference programs they had, I'm pretty sure it was like 5 or 6 of them in like 2024 this year, or sorry, 2023 this year, 2025 and 2026. Like, several, like at least like 5 to 6 of them just bailed out of the games for that. So that kind of puts Liberty in the weird spot where being undefeated may not be enough to capture that G5 spot. They may be passed up by a one-loss Sunbelt team, a one-loss Mountain West team, one-loss American team, something like that.
Yeah, Conference USA is competitive, but it's not that good.
I think there's a reputation around it, and I mean they can change that. Liberty needs some help in the rest of this league. They need Western Kentucky to pull off those games against Boston College and Toledo. They need Jacksonville State to show up against Coastal Carolina, and maybe even, the game we're going to, pull off an upset against Louisville. That would be really huge if Jacksonville State were to do that.
I am rooting for Jacksonville State for the sole reason of Rich Rod. Like, I really wanted to be Jacksonville State in the new game, but for some reason, my brain was like, "Hey, man, Georgia Southern's better." But I could see Louisville losing that game. I feel like they kind of do one of these ups and downs. They'll beat a team like Notre Dame, but then lose to a game like Jacksonville State.
Yeah, or even like the Pittsburgh game last year for them.
Yeah. So I can see like Jacksonville State winning that game, but honestly, that game for us is going to be so much fun. I don't care who wins. As long as we get to experience some glory.
Yeah. Jacksonville State fans, I do have a shirt, so I will be supporting Jacksonville State in this one.
Yeah, Justin was supposed to come back with some gear and only came back with gear for himself.
I didn't find it anymore. But moving on here, now let's talk about FIU with Pitbull. Pitbull Stadium is now a thing. Watch out the rest of Conference USA. You don't just roll into Pitbull Stadium and expect to come out with a victory. What do you think about that, Matt?
I think it's a good business move, but he pulled out of NASCAR to do this. So really, you're only getting the revenue more than likely. You're only getting the revenue for those games that are played. I don't know of any other sports that are held in that stadium, but like, I don't think he's going to make a whole lot of money on this deal. But I mean, it's cool for FIU. It brings national attention.
Yeah,
they were all anybody ever talked about for like 3 days.
You could say that he hit the transfer portal from Trackhouse Racing to FIU. uh, oh my. But I think FIU needed this. Outside of their one really fun week of the year where they do Vice Night, it's really a program that's lacked an identity, and this has given them something. Finally got them out in the national attention. I think some people will finally stop confusing FIU and FAU. But so it was huge for them. I think it was really big for them, and I'm excited to see what it'll bring to FIU football. So one last topic here before to put a bow on Conference USA. Let's shout out our brand new member of FBS. They're down at the bottom. We haven't talked about them yet. Kennesaw State Owls.
Who? They're in the wrong conference. They need to be in the American, but we'll let it slide. Welcome to college football, Owls.
Yeah, very excited to see what they do. They're a bit of a mystery team because they pretty much just, outside of like playing 4 games, they pretty much redshirted everyone on the roster, and kind of tanked last year. So, to prepare for this year. So it's really hard to see what to expect. I mean, I think the default was just to put them in last year in this preseason poll, but who knows? They
Watch
could
them
surprise
just
a
be an
little bit.
absolute powerhouse.
I mean, the funny thing is just see like them do like what Jacksonville State did last year. It would be hilarious to see that happen.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Jacksonville State wouldn't like it because they're rivals, but it'd be a lot of fun for us to see.
Oh, 100%.
So that puts a wrap on that. On to Maction.
You think we spent a long time on Conference USA? You just wait.
No, yeah. We're ready. I mean, this is our home.
Oh, you want me to just jump in?
Here.
You want me to just okay? Okay.
Here.
So my sleeper, I thought you were going to set it up. That's my bad. The sleeper that I have for this conference is the Ohio Bobcats. Now I know they're 5th, but they're 5th in the MAC. So let me just say this. They are one of those teams that may not win the conference, but I think they're going to turn some heads. I mean, they've always kind of lingered there. I think they had like one absolutely terrible year. But honestly, I think Ohio can finish 2nd or 3rd in this conference.
Yeah. I mean, they're kind of hit hard by the portal a little bit, but in this conference, you really have to think about teams that are winners, and that's what Ohio does a lot. Like they manage to stay up there, and even for all the losses, they still manage to bring a decent amount of guys back. Like people worry about the running back situation. They when the guys hit the portal, like they opted out of the bowl game, people are like, oh no, this bowl game's gonna be a disaster for them. And then a running back came out of nowhere, ran for like 5 touchdowns on Georgia Southern, and they won the bowl game in a blowout. So I think this team knows how to reload, and yeah, I agree that they'll be right in there. But that's not who I took as my sleeper. I dug a little bit deeper in the standings, and I went with the Central Michigan Chippewas. Jim McElwain is still there, which is kind of funny. Finally, weird controversies managed to follow him to Central Michigan with the whole Connor Stallions on the sideline thing. But on the field, I think this team's ready to make a jump. The hire of Paul Petrino as an offensive coordinator just was a disaster for them. The run game disappeared, and that put too much pressure in the passing game, and it just all collapsed. He's gone. I think McElwain's going to call the plays because they haven't named an offensive coordinator yet. So I am picking an offensive coordinator less team to surprise. But with Burt Emanuel Jr., who is an electric factory at quarterback, make sure you check him out when you get a chance to see him play. This team's going to be able to rise a little bit and, maybe not win the conference, but I think they'll enter contention a little bit.
I dig it. I guess we can both agree on busts.
Yeah, we agreed on this one.
Northern Illinois.
Let's hear your reasoning.
I don't know. It's like an eyeball thing. Like the more I watch them, the more I don't think they're as good as Ohio. And if I don't think Ohio can really compete with Miami, um, but can like kind of hang with Toledo and BG, um, like I think Northern Illinois is clearly behind them. And then I agree with you on Central Michigan. I think they can turn some heads this season too. But Northern Illinois, the eye test just seems like they're lacking that talent, or at least depth.
Yeah. For me, it was just, like, I mean, it was kind of hard to pick one here because I kind of like a lot of the teams in the top of this conference. But for me, Northern Illinois just has not been able to string together consistent good years in a while. I mean, you look back at their records, it is just, a roller coaster, up and down, up and down. They have not put back-to-back winning seasons together in a while. So that has me a little bit concerned. And obviously, for the first time in what feels like a decade, Rocky Lombardi is no longer their quarterback.
Yeah,
Although,
he's the Bengals soon to be practice squad quarterback.
yeah. I mean, although he missed games here and there, so it's not like as if it's a new thing having a different quarterback, but you still know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I we'll see, but yeah, of all the teams, I just have a little less faith that they can stay up there and not kind of have that random regression again.
Yeah.
Finally, on to the conference championship.
So I got Miami over Bowling Green, and I hate to say it because I'm a Bowling Green homer. Shout out Bowling Green, paid you a lot of money to teach me pretty much nothing. But yeah, I like Bowling Green a lot. They returned a lot of people, but Miami, they just got it going. I think Chuck Martin has got his motor running. Um, I think finally he's figured out how to get kids in there and then coach them to their potential. Now they are missing the best kicker in college football. I understand that. So their special teams may take a hit, but I think
Hey, at least
overall,
he's still one of the best punters in college football.
yeah. Um, I do think that like it's bar none Miami at this point. Like I think that the coaches poll points, I think there should have been a bigger gap between Miami and Toledo.
Yeah, I mean they've got a lot going on. It was very hard to not pick them here, but in the end I decided, Miami does have a pretty tough schedule. Like, their first 3 games of the season are, they play Northwestern, they play
Win,
Notre Dame, they play Cincinnati,
loss, win.
and then they play they get done with that. They play one game against UMass, and then
Win,
immediately enter the conference play at Toledo.
loss.
They have to go on the road to Toledo and Bowling Green, which is going to be tough.
Yeah.
And if things go wrong early, it may make it difficult for them to gain momentum.
Yep.
And then the other thing too is that this is a team that loves to sit on their defense and run a slow pace offense. That's not a bad thing. I like how they like to grind down teams, but it also means some games can be unnecessarily close, which leaves them vulnerable for an upset, especially on Tuesday, Wednesday night action.
Yeah.
Um,
But nothing will
so
ever beat that Miami Bowling Green game where that like fog just rolled into the stadium and then just sat only in the stadium.
I know that was peak action. It was amazing.
No, like it was foggy, and then all of a sudden all the fog just gathered inside the stadium, and then outside the stadium there was no fog. It just for whatever reason all just collected and then started misting a little bit. And the refs blew the game by a Miami player like trapping the ball on the ground even though it was clearly incomplete.
You
I
have not
feel
let that go, have
not
you?
even a little bit, but
You know what's funny? So Miami's coach that year, that was when they made that out of nowhere run to the MAC championship, to winning it. That coach accepted the job at Pitt, got fired 16 days later, and completely vanished from college football. Has not been heard from since.
well,
But anyways,
sometimes you
I
got
gotta
to
get
go
to
out
my
in a blaze of glory.
actual pick here. So, with that being said, it's down to Bowling Green to Toledo, and what I decided? I decided I'm going to speak this into existence here. Bowling Green to win the MAC championship. This is finally the year they are back atop the conference. It is time. They have quarterback back. They have two quarterbacks back. They have the mobile Camden Orff and then Connor Bazelak, who's going to be the main starter. They have offensive coordinator back. They have the coach back. I mean, they return a lot. So this team is finally ready to get after it and win the conference. Toledo's not going to be easy. Toledo may even win the first matchup, win all the chips are on the table. I have Bowling Green winning the conference. Let's go.
That's really good for us, because then we get to brag a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I mean, if they even make it, it'll be a lot of fun because we'll probably try to go.
oh yeah, probably. Any other comments on the MAC?
Yeah, I think that's about it for the MAC. Other than talking about, we'll put a bow on this by talking about Eastern Michigan because we haven't yet. I just have to say that they have one of the best coaches in college football, and there's not enough recognition for it. Chris Creighton has done an incredible job there. Like before he got there, this was one of the bottom programs in this conference. Like they were down there with Akron and Kent State, really just struggling to find any direction. And now they're in a bowl game pretty much every year.
Sweet.
All right.
We can move on to the next conference.
The Mountain West. This conference, is always going to have thrilling action. What do we see unfolding here, especially with Mountain West After Dark, where I think with the Pac-12 kind of gone now, people are going to kind of realize just how crazy these Mountain West After Dark games are. Because, I mean, they might even be crazier than the Pac-12 After Dark. There's upsets galore, random blowouts. You never know what to expect. So that being said, we're going to still try to expect things. Matt, who's your sleeper?
The San Diego State Aztecs. I just think I've heard a lot of rumblings and good rumblings, excuse me, about San Diego State. And they're getting their own stadium soon if they haven't already. I lost track of that. But
they've had the new stadium for a few years.
Oh, have they? Okay. Well, they get out of that old stadium into a new one. They have the coolest uniforms in the G5, and they're in a very beautiful weathered city. So they've been able to get some recruits in there, and I think they're definitely flying under the radar.
Yeah. Yeah. So my thing with them is, they had been in contention for the conference championship a lot recently. Then, things kind of trailed off a little bit as the offense kept, like Brady Hoke somehow kept finding a way to make the offense worse and worse. To the point where last year they were out there and it just felt like, like the coaches weren't even trying to call plays to score. Like they were literally just trying to find the quickest way to get the offense off the field and get the defense back out there. Like the effort just wasn't there. Now they bring in Sean Lewis, who's the exact opposite. He's all offense, fast-paced offense, throwing it deep, exciting run plays. They're going to be a completely different team. I think there's going to be an installation period that's going to prevent them from contending for the conference championship. But, I mean, simply putting in the effort combined with the talent they still have in defense tells me this team's going to be a lot better than expected, especially better than 8th in the conference, which is where they are in this preseason poll.
Yeah.
So, who is going to disappoint?
Personally, I believe Air Force. I mean, when you look at saying someone's a bust, you don't want them in the middle or bottom of the pack. You want them rated at the top, near the top of the conference. And to me, Air Force doesn't seem talent wise like they can compete in there a little bit. I think they're a little overrated. Um,
Mm.
and then since San Diego State, we both think they're going to be sleepers. I think they're going to be able to do enough. And I think it's just going to be like close losses to the top teams and then losing to San Diego State, and they just can't keep up.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I'm actually pretty high on them myself. I know they lose a lot. They lose more than anyone in college football, but that's just life of a service academy. You know, they have another group of seniors ready to go. So I'll disagree with you here. I think they'll be up there, but it's gonna be interesting to watch. For mine, I'm going for the big one here. Now, you know, it's not like they're going to drop like down to like eighth in the conference or something. But my bust is Boise State. Um, you know, they another off season of high expectations, but are they really ready for that? You know, there's the whole thought that Malachi Nelson, former number one recruit, he was going to be the hero. He's going to save the team. Um, Instead, he didn't even win the starting job. It's actually going to be Mark Madsen who's going to be leading the team onto the field. Is that going to be leading to more quarterback controversies throughout the year, or they end up flipping around quarterbacks again? You know, that's been an issue they've had since I think at least 2021, 2020, something like that. You know, a program that normally was reliable for putting strong quarterback play out there now keeps having this issue. And I mean, this season is win the conference or bust. They are by far the biggest favorite. And actually, look at the poll here. I mean, there aren't many votes for anyone else, but I'm seeing it differently. I think, they end up losing at Wyoming, at UNLV, and that keeps them out of the conference championship, and that's a bust of a season for Boise State.
I do think they'll probably lose against UNLV, but like at least like they play in season, don't they?
Yeah, they play in season
So
at the
it's at UNLV, right? At
yep,
the Raider Stadium.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the game they're gonna lose, but I think for the Mountain West championship, they're gonna be able to pull it off. I think they're gonna end up doing something um like Northwestern did in like 2013, 2014, where they had the two quarterbacks set up. You
Oh
remember?
yeah.
Yeah. So I think they're gonna do something like that. I maybe a couple games in, I think they're gonna give it a shot with what's his name?
Madsen.
Madsen, yeah. I think Nelson is going to work his way in there, but hasn't it been a pretty good fight, or has Nelson been like
I he did well in the spring game. Like all indications were, everyone expected him to be the starter, and all of a sudden, it wasn't. Like it
so
was a shocking announcement.
maybe it's one of those things where they could give him a little bit more time with the playbook. And then or maybe it's like one of those things where both quarterbacks are actually playing very well, but he may have um chemistry with receiver or something. So maybe
Yeah,
that's the reason why. So
I
maybe it's a good controversy.
potentially. I mean, I do think part of it is, Madsen was there in 2022 when Dirk Cutter was the offensive coordinator at the end of that year. So, he's already familiar with the scheme a little bit. So that may have given him a legs up. But still, I don't think this is a program that wanted a quarterback controversy. I think it's unsettling
Controversy.
controversy. Yeah, I think it's a little unsettling, compared to the expectations they had. They didn't have time to mess around with this. Oregon comes a week 2.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it ends up being a little bit of a disappointing season. Kind of again, I feel like I'm picking on it because this has happened for them a lot, but we shall see. I will say I root for them a lot, so I hope I'm wrong. Um, but yeah, we'll see what happens. And yeah, so I mean, you let in yours. So if Boise State's out of the mix, I mean, good luck figuring out who the hell is going to win this conference. In my case, I went with Fresno State over Wyoming. Wyoming has a very favorable conference schedule where a lot of their big challenges all have to come to Laramie, and weird stuff always happens there. But Fresno State, I mean, it was kind of tough with Tedford not being able to coach them. Obviously, we hope the best for his recovery, and it's sad to see that he probably won't be able to coach again.
Mhm.
But I think this team's going to respond. They still have a really good roster. The offense is really awesome, and the defense may have kind of capsized late in the year, but I think they're going to improve this year. And yeah, I think they're going to lead this team to the Mountain West Championship. It's going to be quite the response, and they're going to do it.
Yeah. I think Boise State is going to um I think they're gonna prevail in the conference championship. I think they're gonna get the QB thing figured out and then kind of run away with it. Um but
Yeah,
Fresno State is a good team. I mean, other than Boise State's I guess good problem at quarterback, the rest of the division does seem very tight.
agreed. Yeah, I mean
Well, most of the
this
rest of it.
conference is always unpredictable. And like I mentioned in the lead up to it, Mountain West at the Dark just provides some absolutely wild results. And we saw it heads on last year when, we entered November. Fresno State and Air Force were both really good. The winner between those two is probably going to make a New Year's Six Bowl. And then, like, both teams lost out in November. Fresno State losing to New Mexico and Mountain West at the Dark. Air Force losing to Hawaii and Mountain West at the Dark. Like, you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that leads into my next thing here, which is the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. They have a ton returning overall and on the offense, especially. Matt, I think this is the year. This is the year that Hawaii is finally competitively fun again.
I don't know. They're no longer in Aloha Stadium. They don't have the new stadium built. Um, I think the travel is just gonna get to them, and I think like the amount of talent that they have, I think eventually they'll be able to get it, but just right now they have to travel a long way.
Yeah. I mean, this is travel's usually part of it. It's part of the game for them. They every road game is always gonna be a 4 hour flight, no matter who they play. But yeah, I think with the pieces they have, I think they'll at least hit bowl eligibility.
Hmm, maybe, yeah, maybe, but well, we can move on from the Mountain West. We have probably like two people that watch Mountain West.
Hey, our Mountain West ones usually end up being pretty popular. Anyways, on to the SEC. Obviously this conference is now very oversized. Um,
Oversized, overbloated, overcovered.
yes. So let's what are we gonna bring that someone else is not gonna bring? I don't know. But hey, we'll find out together. Matt,
Um,
who is your sleeper?
my sleeper is Tennessee. I mean, they're seventh in a 16 team division, so not bad. Um, but I think they can actually start making some noise. There were multiple times last year that the crowd was chanting um, for their current starter to get Milton out of the game. Um, so like the fact that they were doing that, the fans get their quarterback. I think he's going to take a big jump up this year. They're Tennessee. They're an SEC program. They're still going to get talent. Peyton Manning keeps pushing as many people in his camps to Tennessee as he can. Um, but I think they're going to do pretty well. I don't think they're going to make it to the conference championship. I think they're going to still have a couple losses, but
Yeah. Yeah, potential wild card to get in that large bid to the playoff though. I really like what they have at receiver. They are absolutely loaded at that position.
yeah.
Yes, my sleeper though, and I really just had to, hold my nose here and go with it because, there's been so many times lately that Texas A&M has been hyped up and then disappointed. But I'm gonna have to go with the Aggies here. They finally don't have Jimbo
Jimbo Fisher.
Fisher. They'll have Jimbo Fisher shuffling around all his plays on it, like his hundreds of thousands of plays on his papers, losing them, getting disorganized and stuff, making Bobby Petrino figure out which plays on the papers to run. He's finally out of there. So I think the offense is going to look a little bit more organized. I've always liked the potential of Connor Wegman. And I think we're going to finally see more of that. Mike Elko is now the coach, so the defense is going to be really good. And the other thing I think that I really liked when looking at this team is the schedule. All of the key, pretty much almost all of the key matchups they have come to College Station. Notre Dame has to come to College Station. Texas does. If I recall correctly, LSU does as well. Like, everyone has to come to them. And that's going to be a huge advantage for them.
Yeah, but I mean, like, when you lose like pretty much your only good player into the transfer portal, I like the like you're thinking, but I do feel like it's gonna take a couple years to get to where you're thinking.
We shall see, because I still think this is a talented roster, and I think it's going to play better with addition by subtraction, and that is Jimbo Fisher and his big buyout money at getting out of town.
Speaking of busts, I got LSU busting. Brian Kelly, I think he's past his prime in coaching. They lost. Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bitter towards him, but I think he may have stayed at Notre Dame too long to do what he wants to do. He was able to get Jaden Daniels and get him a Heisman, but they still went they got 4 losses with Jaden Daniels. Their defense was terrible last year. They just lost their 2 best receivers. I just don't think that I think that the offense will still keep not maybe pace with last year, but I think it's going to be a typical Brian Kelly offense where it's all flash and pizzazz, but in the big moments, they're going to just falter.
Very nice. I like it. I like that bold pick. Yeah, and I'm going bold as well here. My bust is going to be the Texas Longhorns. I think Texas is going to miss the college football playoff. You don't just show up and join a new conference in this day and age without hitting some road bumps. I think everyone's kind of assuming that Texas is going to figure it out easily and make it here, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, they actually lost a good deal off of last year's team. The headline is that Quinn Ewers is back. That is awesome. That's great. But, what about everyone else that they're missing? Like, they're trying to band-aid some of these positions with the portal. And, I mean, there are talented people they got from the portal. But how are all those pieces going to come together? And how are they going to replace the special guys they have? Because, like, they're not going to have the same speed that receiver they had before. It's going to be really difficult to replace the impact that guys like Byron Murphy and Devondre Sweat had inside against the run.
Yeah.
And they still have the secondary to figure out. And again, I mean, you're adjusting to a new conference, new environments, road games at Texas A&M, and, out of conference, they also play at Michigan. I think it's going to take like 3 losses, and they'll probably be out of the college football playoff.
I don't necessarily think so. I think the difference maker here is Quinn Ewers, and I do think we're going to see Arch Manning a decent amount this year. Not like in terms of, I think it's going to be like different packages. They have Quinn Ewers in on most packages, but then there's a couple smaller packages that Arch Manning comes in because Arch is a redshirt freshman. Yeah. You want to give him the spotlight before his 1 year of starting before he goes to the NFL. You want to be able to showcase him a little bit and be like, hey, man, this is let's do this. You are a prodigy. So I think he gets some playing time, but not splitting it. I don't think it's 50-50. I think it's going to be still like 85-15 Quinn Ewers. But um, I think Texas is another one of those programs, especially with them announcing that they're going to the SEC. I think just because they lost a lot of talent, I think that Texas brand is coming back, especially since they're getting all
Texas is
Lamborghinis.
back.
I think the brand is back. I don't necessarily think the team is all the way back. Once they get to the playoff, I think they're going to choke. But I think for this, they're going to beat Georgia. I don't have a whole lot of faith in Carson Beck. I do not think he's elite. I do think he's really good.
I think you gave me a lot there to talk about. First of all,
Horns down.
horns down. Second of all, I agree a little bit. Like, I'm not too high on Carson Beck as well. He just doesn't stick out to me. He's a guy who's there. He's executing an offense with, obscene amount of talent around him. He's got all day to throw because he has probably the best offensive line in college football in front of him. He doesn't have to do a lot because he's got great running backs, great receivers. I mean, I hate blaming him because the team around him is so awesome, but there really isn't anything that sticks out about him that excites me. Like, I don't really recall a time where he fit a throw in like a tight window or anything because his receivers are so wide open.
And it's not like he's a scrambler like Justin Fields and was able to just run for 85-yard touchdowns.
Right. Yeah. I mean, really the only time they really had a team in the same punching club as them last year was the SEC championship against Alabama. And as unfair as it is to say, they did lose that game.
Yeah.
Everyone else really didn't stand a chance. But that being said, I'm still high on this Georgia team. I may have said a few negative things there, but I mean, this Georgia team is just going to wipe through college football. They have not lost to a non-Nick Saban team since 2020. All of their losses in recent years have all come to Nick Saban. And I mean, you even have to go further back if you want to find a time where they lost to a currently active coach. Because in 2020, they lost to Dan Mullen. So he's not in coaching either. I mean, I wonder if Nick Saban was the thing getting in the way of Georgia just becoming a complete dynasty.
I would agree with that, but I also think of it as Steve Sarkisian was Nick Saban coordinator as well. So it's literally a fight for the dynasty. And I think Kirby Smart, because he was bested year after year after year, I think he has he did win the championship, but I think that how do I put this? There's certain games that he just can't get out of his own way.
Yeah.
And I
mean, pretty much all of those were against Nick Saban, Alabama.
Yeah. But I mean, I think it's going to be one of those things where you get him into a situation without Nick Saban in the league, and then he still gets in his own way.
We shall see. This year, I think they might lose to Alabama in the regular season, but get revenge in the SEC championship. So I have Georgia over Alabama. Alabama's side, I think they're going to be just fine.
Yeah. I think DeBoer's going to have Milroe. I think Milroe may win a Heisman this year.
It's going to be very interesting because Jalen Milroe is just a ridiculous athlete. The one problem was, though, he wasn't a good quarterback yet.
Yeah.
His accuracy wasn't the greatest, not exactly like throwing of anticipation, but I mean, the guy could burn you because he runs a freaking 4.4. If DeBoer gets him even close to the point where, he's throwing better, I mean, watch out. This team is very dangerous.
Yeah, I know.
It's scary to think about, really.
A little bit. I think the dynasty will live on.
Yeah, I mean, I think they end up making the best hire to replace Saban. Even though it was very funny to think about the idea that Tommy Rees could take over at one point.
That would have just sunk him. I don't think Tommy Reese is
Yeah,
ready to be a coach. Like
I
not a
I
coach.
don't think Alabama was foolish enough to do that.
No.
But yeah,
This
they're
isn't
gonna
the
be really good.
90s where you can just make bad hires willy-nilly. This is
I know, right?
um we've done our obligatory SEC talk. So unless you have you may have had something about Vanderbilt.
Well, yeah, I think we got a couple more here to put a bow on this. So Vanderbilt, we touched on it in the Conference USA section, but how about the fact that they just decided, you know what? We've been so bad. We're just going to import all of New Mexico State to this team. I think they're at least going to be exciting to watch. Diego Pavia and the SEC is going to be very interesting. But yeah, we'll have to see. They're going to be running more of like a pistol option with him. I mean, at least they're getting creative, right?
Yeah. I mean, they have the Bland V. They had their scoreboard hanging from a crane a couple years ago.
I mean, so it
Last year.
finally just wasn't like just recently. Like they finally got it off the crane recently, and they actually did a video celebrating the fact that it's no longer the crane.
I wonder how much it was to like rent that crane for that long.
I know, like they had that crane up for probably about a year at this point.
Yeah. That's a hefty daily expense. Um
But
but yeah,
yeah,
what did
by the
Arkansas
way,
do?
yeah, I want to talk about how stupid this conference is. Like teams, when they get desperate, I mean, they just get stupid, and it's the best. Like they just in Arkansas, like how in the world did Bobby Petrino end up back at Arkansas? I am so obsessed with this. Like it is the thing I have to talk about every single time because I cannot believe after the way that ended that Bobby Petrino somehow found his way back there as offensive coordinator.
Can you remind us what happened?
Yes. So there's an alleged incident where he was cheating on his wife with a woman that worked at the university. They got in a motorcycle accident. He got fired, all while being in a press conference with wearing a neck brace.
Arkansas is a wild state.
It really is. In mentioning wild and angry fans, let's talk about the Florida Gators, who are just on an absolute ride to hell schedule this year. They have at Florida was for a long time known for mostly putting together weak non-conference schedules, and then this year for some reason they have completely flipped that because they play the Miami Hurricanes, they play UCF, and they play Florida State, which, by the way, shout out to playing about everyone in the state.
Yeah.
But those are really tough games. And then you get into SEC play. And I mean, I'm going to have to pull this up real quick. Because the schedule to finish the season is just nuts. And I mean, like, it's very weird too because everyone is pretty much written off Billy Napier because of the schedule. And it's just a wild thing to see. So they wrap up the season at Georgia, at Texas, home against LSU, home against Ole Miss. So when I mentioned those four, look at where they are in the standings there in that
Yeah.
preseason poll. That's four of the top five. They also
Yeah.
play at Florida State to close out the regular season. Now let's not forget that's not even all the games. They also play, like I mentioned, Miami, Florida, and UCF. They also play Texas A&M, my sleeper. They also play at Tennessee, your sleeper.
Yeah. I don't think Florida has a chance.
I think that's been the general consensus from most people.
I think Kentucky will probably have a much better season. Hell, I think Arkansas may have a better season than Florida.
Oh my, poor Florida. But that does it for our SEC section. Now on to another Southern Conference. Let's talk about the Fun Belt.
Yeah.
Um,
You like how the Sun Belt went from like meh teams to like all of a sudden just a G5 powerhouse.
yeah, I like everyone's really good, and then also just incredible regionality where like everyone's close together. Lots of great rivalries. I mean, this conference is just a ton of fun to watch, and um, just to preface why this slide is so weird, the Sun Belt's format for their media poll was sideways, which is a lot different. And also, I spent the whole day fighting with PowerPoint. Like for my real job, I had to put a PowerPoint together for executives. Then I'm putting together this one. I just was done with it. So I really don't know why Sleepers got a train, Bus got a castle, and then the conference championship. I guess it's a mountaintop, but
Maybe the Smokies
I guess
and
so. I mean,
sleepers
not.
bums sleep on the bus.
No, but the problem is though, Sleepers is good.
But
Bus
but
got the
bums
castle.
yeah, but bums sleeping on a bus get to sleep without getting rained on and get transported to a new area of town. I don't know how to say
Oh,
that. I don't. I'm trying.
there's no spinning for that.
Yeah.
Let's dive in.
Um, Sleepers. I got Georgia Southern. Not just because I like them in college football 25, and I'm currently obsessed
Maybe.
with playing with them, but um, I do like JC French. I think fans are like, what? But I think like they're gonna run. I think JC French is more mobile than Dexter Williams. So I think they're going to run a little bit more option out of the air raid and surprise some teams. But I do think Williams works his way in as well. But Jalen White is going to be their powerhouse. I think out of the backfield, he's going to get a lot of screen passes, and then he's going to definitely run the ball very well this season.
Very nice. Yeah, I've got Marshall here. For one, I was very surprised to see how low they were picked in the first place. But Marshall has been pretty good. Last year they started out 4-0, including a win over Virginia Tech. And I mean, even their first loss was a shootout loss to NC State. And then all of a sudden everything just collapsed. Like, and even the year before, they had like a midseason collapse after beating Notre Dame. So, they've shown potential, but they just haven't quite been able to finish it. I think what they really needed was an offensive jolt, and that's exactly what they got. They're bringing in the air raid offense now. Um, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun to see, and I think it's gonna help Marshall add a little bit more pop to their offense to complement their
Some
defense. Really
pizzazz.
good. Yes. Yeah. So I'm very excited to see that. I think Marshall's going to do pretty good.
Yeah, I
As
mean,
for our bus section,
bus. I got
oh no, oh no, oh, where did that go? All right, so um, looks like Matt's router decided to restart him. So now I have the podcast to my own. Watch out. Um, yeah, let's talk about why Coastal Carolina is going to be a bust, even though it's going to be weird without having the back and forth. Coastal Carolina is replacing a lot. They have lost the whole heart and soul of what their team is. Um, what their team was during that really fun bullet era. Jamie Chadwell's gone. Now Grayson McCall is gone. I wasn't very high on the Tim Beck hire. I blamed him when I was at a younger age for ruining the Ohio State offense in 2015. So maybe there's a little bit bias around that, but yeah, I just between that and just everyone they replace, I'm a little bit worried about Coastal Carolina in that they could very easily fade in such a tough competitive conference. Matt,
All
we
right.
lost you there
So
for a little bit, so I went on my bust. Why is James Madison a bust? And why did the internet of yours not want anyone to hear it?
I don't know. It stopped working at exactly 8 o'clock and then stopped working at like a little past 9. So I don't know what's going on with it. I might have to get a new one. Um, but I'm on really weak Wi-Fi because there's other signals coming from way across the house. However, James Madison, um, I think there's a lot of changes going on with the program, and I think this is going to be a down year for them. And they're taking a step back to figure it all out. And I think with being in the spotlight, they just don't have. They're not going to be able to get it done.
All right, all right. So on to conference championship picks.
Conference championship, I got Texas State over Coastal Carolina. As good as I think Georgia Southern is going to be, I think their defense kind of meh. Um, when it comes down to it, I really like what Texas State has been building over the past couple years, and I think there's a lot of hype around their program, and I think it's legit. I think the hype is real. Coastal Carolina, um, they had that pretty good year. Was it last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago,
2 years
and
ago.
2020.
Yeah. I think they kind of rebound, but I think they fall just a little bit short, and I think Texas State runs away with it.
All right. I too like Texas State. They've been an exciting program to pay attention to this offseason. Um, this is the team that had even reached a bowl game before. And now we're talking about them in the college football playoff race. The quick rise under GJ Kenny has been absolutely incredible to watch. So we need to just take in what an awesome story this team is, and really just thoroughly enjoy watching them as the season goes on. I love what they have in offense. Jordan McLeod was such a huge pickup. Their running back is awesome. They're one of the best receivers in the conference. I think the defense is going to be ready to make that step up to get them more competitive even. And yeah, I think they're going to win the West Division, but I'm going with Appalachian State to win the conference. I think this is going to be the best, most well-rounded team in the conference. Joey Aguilar is also one of the best quarterbacks in the conference. They're going to be able to run the ball really well. I think their run defense is going to improve. It kind of capsized a little bit at times last year, and that's what cost them a few games. But this year, I think it's the year that it really comes together for Appalachian State. And, for the first time since 2019, they actually go and win the conference. I really like what this team has.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I do too. I just personally, I believe that Texas State and Coastal Carolina just have a little bit more there, but I do really like Appalachian State.
Yeah, and I also like Appalachian State to potentially even make the playoff.
Wow.
Yeah, I think this is the year they finally crash it.
What if
So
they
yeah.
play Michigan in the first round?
Oh, that would be amazing.
That would be so
That
fun.
would be so perfect. Before we put a wrap on this conference, we just need to talk about one team that could potentially throw a wrench in this whole equation. That is Old Dominion. Old Dominion is a team that has the pieces where when things get going, they can go really good, really fast. But the problem with them is they also can get in times where they go 3-and-out really quickly. If you watch them in the famous Toastery Bowl, you know exactly what this team is. The first quarter was the best of them. where they can pile on you quickly, put up 28 points in the quarter, and you're buried and done. But there's also a side of them where they go 3-and-out over and over again. They get nothing going, and they could struggle. So this is going to be a team that's going to be very up and down all year. They play a very tough schedule, so they're not going to be a sleeper team because the schedule's going to be too tough for that. But this is going to be a team that I think is going to surprise somebody and mess up someone's season in this conference.
Yeah. I think that's well put, Justin.
Yeah. And how about old Butch Jones in Arkansas State? They finally got some momentum going last year.
I am not a big fan of Butch Jones.
But the Nick Saban School of Coach Rehabilitation may have done them well.
Maybe, but my phone also autocorrected his name to Butcher Jones for the first 4 years. And he also ruined Cincinnati and ruined Tennessee.
Yeah. I mean, he did bring them a couple good years while he was there, though. Also, if you play College Football 25, we didn't get to mention UL Monroe much, but you got to use them. I mean, that is a team that needs rebuilding. It'd be very fun to see them be good. That is my shameless plug for UL Monroe as your team. So, before we go into our next section here, we want to mention what we're going to be talking about to, what our show's going to look like now that we're done with the preseason portion of our scheduling here. That's the end of our conference predictions. It's time to talk about the regular season. During the regular season each year, we're going to basically, we'll do our midweek show where we go over the schedule for the week and talk about, what we find fun about it. And then at the end of it, we will be doing our weekly picks. These picks will be formatted where we have a game of the week for each conference. Sometimes it's the best game for that conference, especially when they enter conference play, or during this non-conference portion, it could sometimes be a game that's kind of critical for that conference. It's a big game for a team in that conference to help the conference, build up towards earning a playoff bid or whatever it is. So we'll be doing one for each of the 9 main FBS conferences. I know the Pac-2 is technically still a conference, but we're kind of looping them in with the Mountain West. So we'll be doing 9 games, one from each FBS conference. It's not the Pac-12, and we'll be doing one FCS game.
Yes.
So let's get excited here.
Yeah.
Let's go. This is an abbreviated portion this week because we did predictions on top of this. So we are just strictly going to be doing picks this week. Once we get into the season, we'll be doing a more in-depth show. So our week 1 picks, our American game of the week, Charlotte versus James Madison. Honestly, the American was kind of hard to pick because a lot of teams play FCS teams in week 1. But Charlotte is a team that I had tabbed as a sleeper team, and they get to bring in the JMU Dukes in week 1. So potential upset opportunity here. Matt, do you see the upset happening, or does James Madison roll with this one?
I see the upset happening, and I think that's part of the downfall for James Madison. The reason why this year is going to be a step back. I think Charlotte's going to just come out and punch him in the mouth. And then James Madison, everyone's going to be like, wow, James Madison is not good this year. And then they'll float off into not anyone talking to them about them ever again.
Matt, you picked James Madison to win this game.
No, I didn't. Oh, maybe I did.
Someone's had a long day.
It's been a super long day. I also texted you a couple days ago, and the more I thought about it, the more I think Charlotte can win. But for the sake of argument, maybe James Madison doesn't falter in this game, and maybe the hype train moves on for a couple more weeks.
At least you can flip the switch very quickly. I like Charlotte, but I see James Madison pulling this one off. I think their offense is going to be too much for Charlotte to keep up with, as they're kind of figuring out their portal pieces a little bit. I like Charlotte as a team, but I don't think they're going to be able to pull this one off. Now, the next one in the ACC, I had to make sure this game was included somehow, just because, I mean, this game, whoever wins, whoever loses, I mean, they're at least one, if not both fan bases, are going to be completely frustrated and pissed off by the time this game ends.
Yes.
And it's going to be just absolutely wonderful to see. The Miami Hurricanes at the Florida Gators. Matt, who do you see winning this one?
I have Miami. I'm not on the hype train of Miami is back, so I want to say that before your rant. But I do think Miami wins this game. I think Florida is just that bad. And I think Cam Ward is going to have a game here.
Very nice. Yeah, I was trying to think about this one, and I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? This would be the kind of game that Mario Cristobal just finds a way to lose. You know, everyone's on Miami on the hype train, and everyone's buried Florida and left them for dead. But this is still a game where Miami has to go into the swamp and try to beat the Gators. I actually like what Florida has as a team, and I see the Gators pulling the upset here. If this happens, by the way, it would be a complete disaster result for the ACC. In terms of getting multiple bids, the playoff, they really cannot afford to lose this game.
Yeah.
Next.
So go ahead.
Oh, finish your point.
I was just going to say, we already touched on Florida being bad, and then we didn't. I think we both bashed Miami in the ACC video. It's been a week, so a lot has happened in that week. So I can't remember exactly what I said about them, but just to add the cherry onto the top of this game, it's a night game, isn't it?
It's an afternoon game in the heat, in the swamp.
I was so hoping it was a night game that was just like pouring down rain.
Honestly, with how hot it's going to be, I think the fans will welcome some rain.
Probably.
Next, in the Big 12, big noon at Fox is coming to this game. West Virginia versus Penn State. This is a huge game for West Virginia. If they could somehow pull off the upset here, it would very much change the equation to where you're talking about more teams in the Big 12 making the playoff compared to the Big 10. And for Penn State, I mean, this is a huge proving point, you know. Is their new offensive coordinator going to be better, or is it not? What do you think, Matt?
I think it's going to be Penn State. I think just having a better quarterback is going to come down to it. I know you're not high on him, but I think that Penn State is going to continue beating West Virginia in this early season rivalry game. And the fact that they play it early in the season and then in week 0 is perfect. I think this needs to continue to be. Oh, it's week 1. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the first week of the season, I do agree with those two playing each other. I think that's a necessary thing each year.
Yeah, I love that. I love the effort from Penn State to play this game, and really the scheduling for West Virginia in general has been really awesome because they seem to prioritize a lot of regional games. And I should have prefaced this by saying that we didn't do one for week 0 because we are looking forward to all of the games. But anyways, my prediction here, I do see Penn State disappointing overall this year, but for this game in particular, I'm not sure if West Virginia has the horses up front to stop Penn State's run game. And I'm not sure West Virginia is going to be able to run the ball well enough to win this one. It's going to be very tough to run on Penn State, and they don't have much of a passing game to be able to threaten Penn State's defense and get them off the line. Penn State's going to try to to pack the box here, stop Garrett Green from running, turn him into a pocket passer, and make life difficult for him that way. I think it's going to be close, but I think Penn State pulls it off.
Yeah, moving on to the Big Ten. We have USC versus LSU, and I think this is the game where everyone realizes that LSU is going to suck. I'm not very high on USC either, but Miller Moses,
Miller
Moss, whatever, one extra letter. I think Miller Moss is going to be the difference. I think he's a better fit for the offense than Caleb Williams was. I think Caleb Williams just had the overall talent to keep this team afloat. So I think the better match will make the offense look like flow nicer. I think the turnovers are going to go down, but I'm still concerned about their defense.
Yeah. And by the way, I really hope this game features. This is a Sunday night game. I'll be flying home during this game, and most likely, thanks to in-flight entertainment, I'll be watching it the whole way home. I really hope this game provides all the silly, stupid, goofy plays that we've had in the past with these LSU Sunday night games. LSU's playing on Sunday night, I think this is the third week in a row now, or third season in a row. So I just got to say, I hope we get all that. In all reality, both teams are trying to figure out their defense because these were teams that had electric offenses, but their defenses sucked last year. I see LSU just barely pulling this one off. I do think Miller Moss is going to be really good. And I was so close to taking USC in this one. In the end, I think LSU just is a little bit better in the trenches, and that's what helps the Tigers win this one. Next one, Conference USA, was another tough one to kind of figure out. There wasn't really a lot of, they're either, it was Western Kentucky getting sacrificed to Alabama. I didn't want to pick a Thursday game, so that's why Jacksonville State and Coastal Carolina's not on here. So that left me with Sam Houston and Rice. Rice is a team returning a lot of starters. Sam Houston is as well. If they were to pull this one off, it'd be a huge early big win for Conference USA against the American. Matt, what do you think?
So I really think that Rice is going to come out on top in this one. I do like Sam Houston, but I think it's going to be one of those games where consistency is key. Rice is pretty consistent right now. And I think that Sam Houston is too streaky.
Yeah. In the end, for me, the quarterback position ended up giving me the edge here. I really love what EJ Warner is going to bring to this Rice offense. I'm excited to see it. And that's ultimately what made me go with the Owls over the Bearcats here. Next, Maction, a huge game for the MAC. The Miami Redhawks travel to Northwestern at the temporarily lakeside place where they're playing football this year. It is hard to believe this is where a Big Ten team is playing games, but this is what's happening. And by the way, because I get Miami Redhawks tickets emails, for some reason, tickets to this game are more expensive than the Notre Dame game.
That makes no sense.
I don't get it either.
Maybe it's because of the stadium.
I think maybe because it's so small, they can hardly fit anyone in there. The good news is it's early in the year, so at least it's not going to be cold when you're getting blasted by those 40-mile-an-hour lakeside winds.
Yeah.
Mentioning that weather, even if it is 40-mile-an-hour winds, that pace goes perfectly for Miami. I think, their defense is going to be really tough here for Northwestern to deal with. Northwestern has not convinced me their offense is going to be that good. I think Miami's just able to get an early lead and really just control the game to grind out a nice little 17-13 win.
Yeah, I think Miami is going to show everybody that they mean business. And I think Northwestern I'm not too high on their program, even though they did win 8 games last year. I think this is going to be one of those hey, maybe the MAC is better than Northwestern right now.
Yeah, yeah. Mountain West, we have UNLV at Houston. UNLV plays a very tough schedule this year, and it starts with this game at Houston. Um, for the conference as a whole, this is a very critical game. Probably a must-have, I would say, if the Mountain West wants to be in that contention for that fifth auto bid to the playoff. And Houston, meanwhile, with a new coach, they want to start off strong. This is a very underrated game in the week 1 slate.
Yeah, so I think Houston's gonna pull it out. I do think it's gonna be a close game though. I just think Houston has a little bit more talent, despite being one of the worst teams in the Big 12. I think they're going to show that there still is a gap between the Big 12 and Mountain West.
Future first round pick Donovan Smith, a quarterback.
Yeah.
Last chance to throw it out there in the preseason before the game.
Yeah.
My thing is, Houston is breaking in a pretty much brand new defense. I mean, the defense sucked last year, so sometimes when a defense is bad and you lose everyone, it's not always a bad thing to completely change the scheme up and just start from scratch. But for having new pieces in new places in a new scheme, going up against the go-go offense is not optimal. That offense is very tough to defend. You really have to be in position at all times. Are they going to be ready for that? That's my question. I don't think they will. I think UNLV manages to run all over them and pulls off a huge win.
Ooh.
Next, we look at Texas A&M versus Notre Dame, one of the biggest showdowns of week 1. The Aggies hosting the Irish. It's going to be very tough in that environment. And I mean, there are playoff implications here right off the bat. Who do you think wins this one?
I think Notre Dame still wins. I think that Texas A&M is still trying to figure things out. I don't think this is a Notre Dame team that is limited by Brian Kelly. I think this is a new Notre Dame team that embraces continuity. And I think this is a Notre Dame team that may have a little bit of turnover and may be a little weak in receiver, but they still have Al Golden calling their defense, and they're going to have a good offense this year still. They still have good running backs. Their offensive line is consistently good, even though they lost. I think it was right tackle to a knee injury already. Yeah. And I think the receivers are going to show up, and I think Riley Leonard is going to make everyone go, Riley Leonard went to Duke? Really?
By the way, let's be real. Like this game, I would be surprised if it's anything but like one of those classic 13-10 games.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be very low scoring. I think Notre Dame's going to have a little bit of trouble with that offensive line. There's a good chance that because of that injury, they're going to be starting a freshman at tackle. I foresee a lot of false starts, getting in the way of drives, and it's just going to be an ugly game because Notre Dame's defense is going to be really tough for Texas A&M to deal with. I just see the Aggies at home managing to pull it off just barely.
Nope.
13-10.
I think Kyle Field will be electric. I think that would be a fun game to go to. But ultimately, I just think Marcus Freeman's a better coach.
Hey, let's see it. On to the Sun Belt here. Georgia Southern hosting Boise State. There wasn't a lot to choose from in the Sun Belt, but Georgia Southern getting this home opportunity against the Mountain West team is very big for positioning in terms of that fifth auto bid to the playoff. Does Georgia Southern have the horses for the upset here?
I think so. I think this is the one game that Boise State will lose before they kind of click into gear and figure out how to make it work with both quarterbacks, because both are going to get some playing time. I think Georgia Southern has the experience. I think Jalen White is going to have a lot of rushing yards in this game. And I think J.C. French is going to show people why he's a starter over Dexter Williams.
Dang, Matt, you are you are going bold here. I love it. I thought about it, but I'm gonna go with Boise State in this one. I think Ashton Genty is just gonna be too good for Georgia Southern's defense to deal with. The Broncos roll to victory. And then finally, our FCS game of the week. Only dubbed the FCS game of the week by us because I am going to this game. And that is pretty much why it showed up on this pick 'em. Montana versus Missouri State. Missouri State in their last year in FCS before they move up to the FBS level. Montana looking to make it one step further after making it to the FCS championship game last year, but losing. Who do you think wins this one?
I think Montana takes it. I think they give one last goodbye to Missouri. And I think Montana just continues their success, thirsty for another championship.
Yep. Yeah, I think the Grizz roll in this one. Their defense is going to be a little too much for Missouri State to deal with. Plus, it's hard to tell when Missouri State's going to play their guys because, a lot of their key guys probably are only going to play 4 games this year because this year doesn't mean anything. Although I would say they probably would play this one. That being said, though, Montana with the blackout crowd, I'm hoping to see Junior Bergen return one kickoff for a touchdown. That would be absolutely electric. The Grizz win.
Opening kickoff.
Oh, yes. That would be an amazing way to start. Let's go. So, yeah, that is our week 1 predictions. Let us know what you think. Where did we go wrong? And who do you think will emerge ahead after week 1? Who will be in the early lead here this season?
Yeah.
This is going to be a season-long competition, and we'll see who comes out on top. We're finally here, guys. Let's enjoy it.
Yep. I'm going to go back to playing college football 25 until these games start. I love the video game despite EA kind of ruining it. Just the difference between 14 to 25. Like there's some things I miss, obviously, but just the jump up. And you can take us off the graphic. This really has nothing to do with the graphic, but I think the fact that it's new and the fact that it's new players, new uniforms, more teams, the college playoff stuff, different way to figure out recruiting. I think that is a big selling point to me. I think they have still a long way to go before it becomes like a great game, but
yeah,
still truly obsessed with it.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. Enjoy that. I'm going to be going to Montana to check out some national parks and then check out this game.
Yeah. So, we recorded this like 10 days before the Montana Missouri State game. So a lot may change between now and then, but since Justin's going to be gone, we have to record sooner, get these out of the way. So by the time you see this, Justin will probably be back from his vacation. And and yeah, I may be a season or 2 further. And yeah, so if something ends up wrong, just look at the date it was posted and then probably subtract 5 days from that.
Yep. So yeah.
Let's food.
Do cold close. No, cold close.
No, I want to talk about food. We talk about it every.
Fine. Okay. What is it?
Let's go with favorite kind of beef jerky.
Oh, this is leads to the Buc-ee's one here.
Because I'm wearing the hat. I had the ghost pepper Buc-ee's. I couldn't fresh.
So
the line was way too long at the fresh counter, so I just grabbed the bag off the wall. Because I'm like a get in, get out kind of person. And this was definitely not the time of day to get in, get out. So choking down here. I'm not a big fan of Jack Link's. There's a place in Gatlinburg that I had gone to before, and it was scrumdiddlyumptious. But I Bucky's is up there for beef jerky.
Yeah, their beef jerky is absolutely amazing. I want to try it fresh on the counter at some point. I haven't
Yeah.
gotten to yet either.
I was like, it has the Bucky's brand on it. Let me at least try that.
Yeah,
The fresh may be absolutely delicious.
I bet it is. The hot flavor is really good, but I think my favorite from Bucky's so far is their lemon pepper flavor. That
Ooh.
one was really good.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah. Next time you get down there, you got to try it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we can cold close now. All right. Give us a like, a subscribe. Follow us if you don't already on X at Updog Sports Talk. We're most active there. We are on Threads, Instagram, Facebook.
Oh, Threads is still a thing.
Threads is still a thing. Pretty much whatever I post on Instagram gets posted to the other two. So I'm trying to do more shorts. That way you don't have to watch these hour-long episodes or like 15, 20-minute episodes for each team or each conference. But yeah, coming out with some frequency here, and it's going to slow down a little bit. We're probably going to go back to weekly instead of daily, but we had to get everything out before the season started, and it's also a busy time of year for both of us. So, yeah. Anything else, Justin?
Absolutely. No, that's all from my end. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna get to experience the mecca of FCS football of Montana. And yeah, time for me to go pack.
Justin, if you don't have service, record yourself in a video for that'll do like about a minute and just post that as a short as soon as you get internet access.
Sounds good.
That's more of a business shout out to Justin, but you may be
we
looking for it.
sometimes do our production meetings on air. It's
Yeah,
just one of our things.
Saves us time, and really.
Yep.
So that is it. We'll see you guys next time.
See you later.